Hello, I'm an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything, I just like knives. And for a little over a year now, you've been joining me on a weekly-ish tour through my collection of small folding pocket knives. Thanks for the company. We're going to step a little bit outside my script today. Back when I first decided to do these videos, I made a list of the knives I thought I should cover, and I actually put some thought into what order they would come out in, so that there was some variation, variation in sizes and brands and styles and so on. It's not random, but every now and then something happens that causes me to just sort of upset the plan, and this is one of those. We're going to have a look today at this cute little knife. This is a Spyderco McBee. So where did this come from? So let me say right up front, I didn't buy this. I probably wouldn't have bought it. First of all, I wasn't even aware that it existed. Second, it's not really what I collect, which is non-threatening gentleman's knives. Certainly not threatening, certainly not a gentleman's knife. And with apologies to all their fans out there, I don't really care for the Spyderco designs in general. No, I have this because a friend gave it to me. He knows I like small knives, and because it has these little dog paw prints all over it, he thought it was cute, and he thought that I would get a kick out of something cute. And he's right, I do get a kick out of it being cute. Not my thing. It actually turns out to be quite an interesting little knife. It is tiny, as we'll see, and yet it is a real knife. Full strength, solid construction, quite surprisingly capable, just very small. So formal description, I'm not sure exactly how to do this. It is called it's from Spyderco, it's called a McBee. And it also has on the blade, it has, where are we? J. McNees, M-C-N-E-E-S. From the minimal research I did, my understanding is that J. McNees is a Marine veteran and a knife designer, and he was the inspiration for the McBee knife. Now, I don't know if these scales are standard. I have not been able to find online anywhere how you buy this knife with the paw print scales on it. So these may be aftermarket or a sprint run or something, I don't know. So anyway, not knowing how standard it is, this is a Spyderco McBee. The mechanism, this is a real traditional Spyderco. It's got a Spidey hole opening. Now it's too small to thumb flick, but it's a Spidey hole opening. And it's running on bearings, and once it's open, it is a full real frame lock. There's the frame lock mechanism, and we'll come back to this, but that is a real sort of full-sized frame lock. It's just short. The size is really this knife's thing, of course, so let's talk about that. It is tiny to the point of being cute. It's 98 millimeters long. So internationally standard scale for knife size, it's less than half a pocket calculator. Almost exactly half if you take the very pointy end of the blade into account. And for fun, we'll compare it to a few other knives. Here's one that it's not very similar to. That's the Zero Tolerance 0452. What is that? 1, 2, almost 3 times larger or smaller, depending which way you're looking. Less silly. So it is, what's this size? Nothing is this size. The smallest knives in my collection, here we are, this is a buck 425, so smaller than that, but more blade. Interesting. Another small knife, this is an Almar Hawk Ultralight, and as you can see, it is considerably smaller, and yet this is a flimsy knife. It's small and light, and that's nice, but it does not feel like a substantial knife that would put up to hard use. This does. So really interesting. Tiny and yet sturdy. It's light, 48 grams. Not the lightest knife in the collection. But it is certainly light. It's less than a bug out, and bug outs are stupidly light. It's slightly more than a bug out mini. The blade is 1.5 inches long, Wharncliffe, which means straight cutting edge, humped back. Obviously, 1.5 inches is much less than 3 inches in places where that matters. And it has the traditional sort of humped back and hole of the Spyderco knives. So the steel is CTS XHP. And I didn't know anything about that steel, and I guess I kind of assumed, because this is a tiny, toy-sized knife, I kind of assumed unfairly that that was a cheap steel. Well, it's not. The minimal research I did on it, just my Google foo, says that it's similar to SV35. So, okay, that's been the standard on Chris Reeves knives for a long time. And that's a pretty good endorsement. That would tell me that it's, a good, reliable, balanced steel. So anyway, honestly, in this case, I don't care. This knife is a novelty, and I'm not gonna rate it, like it or dislike it based on the steel. So, the body is where this knife gets really interesting. This is solid titanium slab sides. These are not scales. So those are good, thick titanium sides. So this is just painted, maybe anodized, I don't know, let's say painted onto the titanium. So it is solid. At first I thought it was titanium frame and G10 scales, but it's not. It's solid titanium and just beveled edges. So between the solid titanium scales, which includes the integral frame lock, which is like a full width frame lock, this is really sturdy. It's really quite surprising. Good, beefy body. The clip I'm not crazy about. It is the standard Spyderco polished stainless steel bent clip. It is shallow carry. It's very shallow carry. And even though I think it's slightly shorter than the normal Spyderco clip, it might not be. Maybe it's the standard size. But anyway, it's basically the entire length of the knife because the knife is so small. And strangely, the clip is not movable to the other side. Because most of the larger Spydie knives, of course, have 4-way mounting clips. I can understand this not being mountable for tip down carry. There just isn't room over here. But I don't know why they wouldn't have drilled this side so that left-hand people could have left-hand carry. I don't care, but it seems like something that wouldn't have been hard to do. So anyway, there are some problems with the clip in actually using it, which we'll come to. And honestly, I don't use the clip very much. When I carry this knife, which is rare, I tend to just put it right in my pocket. I might even take the clip off. We'll see. There is a lanyard hole, and it's a real serious lanyard hole. There's the hole there, and it's metal tube lined. I don't know why I would put a lanyard in a knife so small, unless maybe to wear it around my neck as a jewelry. And ambidextrousness, well, opening, I guess so. First of all, you can open it with 2 hands, of course. It is a Spydie hole. You sort of can open it with your thumb. I almost can't, just because it's so small that the radius is too small for my arthritic fingers. But if you were going to open it with 2 hands, I guess you could do it with your left almost as easily. Closing, no, it's a frame lock, and it's as hard as frame locks are for left-handed people, and the clip is one side only. So not very ambidextrous, but again, so small that I'm not sure that actually matters. It's manufactured in Taiwan, it says so right on the side of the blade. So, what do I like about this knife? Well, it's cute, especially when it's closed. It's cute. It's tiny, it's cute, it's got paw prints on it, for God's sake. But it's real. Like it's solid titanium sides, good solid frame lock with a lock. I can't get the angle right. Lock pin or lock. There we are. A lock ball. So it feels like a sort of a full-sized, in terms of sturdiness, it feels like a full-sized titanium frame lock. It's pretty impressive. It has a decent sharp blade. It came quite sharp from the factory. Not very symmetric bevel. That's pretty common with production factory knives, but decent and sharp. Obviously, because it's so small, it fits anywhere. And the blade shape is useful. I don't really like, I don't like Spyderco blades in general because of the weird humped back. I don't like Wharncliffe blades because I like the graceful curves of drop points, but honestly, as a utility knife to have in your pocket, this is pretty useful. That straight cutting surface is great for cutting through cardboard from your Amazon boxes, and the very pointy Wharncliffe end is good for scoring. and yet it achieves that without looking like it was designed for stabbing things. So it's actually quite a useful blade shape. A few things I don't like. The one I'm going to mention the most is the clip. It's shallow, and I don't like shallow, and it's bright, so it's conspicuous, and I don't like that. But the main problem I have with the clip is that because it's a full-size clip on a knife that obviously isn't full-sized, the clip takes up the entire length of the knife. It ends way down here at the end, and that makes it actually quite hard to get onto your pocket. In normal knives, I don't know, there's a lot of space here, kind of a runway ramp to start sliding it down your pocket and then sort of over the clip. There isn't that here, so this is not easy to get onto the pocket, combined with the fact that it's very tight. So I generally have to sort of two-hand it onto my pocket, is pull the clip away from the knife and get that over my pocket, and it's awkward. And you can tell that it's being tight is part of the problem, because getting it off your pocket is rather difficult as well. Second thing I'll mention that, as I don't like, it's almost not, is that it is kind of cramped. Well, duh, it's a tiny knife, okay? But, basically I have trouble one hand opening it. I certainly can't flick it open. Probably others can. And I generally have to do a sort of a mid-flight adjustment to one hand open it. So I can one hand open it if I needed to, because my other hand was occupied, but I generally don't. I generally two-hand this. The other thing I notice, and it doesn't matter at all, I get that, but I notice, is that the clip here is covering a scale screw. You can't take that scale screw out without first removing the clip. Now, this thing is so small, I don't know how that would have been avoidable, but it just seems to me like a minor design flaw, and I just noticed that. I would have liked a little more. I don't know if this is an expensive knife. For me, no, it was free. I'm not going to complain about that, but it's a small thing that you notice. Finally, the blade, I mentioned this, I don't really like Wharncliffe blades. I don't really like Spidey holes. But on this cute little guy, I guess it's okay. I guess it works. So let's run through my internationally unknown and, for this knife, not very applicable knife rating system. We'll start with NTGK for non-threatening gentleman's knife. And we'll do non-threatening first, where it's going to score very well, because how do you be less threatening than this? So the good news, the size, it's tiny. I don't know who would think that's a weapon. It's tiny. It's cute. It couldn't look less stabby. It's got paw prints on it, for God's sake. I've had people in my office, I take this knife out and I put it on the table and they go, "Oh," just like I put a kitten on the table, right? So it's the cuteness is very disarming. Another nice thing about it is it's quiet. I can open it two-handed and there's just the tiniest little snick as it locks. Same thing one-handed. I can open it one-handed and I get just a little snick as it locks open. I don't know any way to make it loud, and therefore it doesn't draw attention to itself. And I mentioned this already, but you can open it two-handed, and I think that's important for non-threateningness. The bad, I don't have anything to list for bad. This is a knife that was designed to be non-threatening and is, so I'm going to give it an A+ for non-threatening. Gentleman's knife, well, the good news is it's small and light, so it doesn't weigh down your pocket very much. The bad news is a few things. The clip is not very gentlemanish. The bright polished steel is conspicuous. Shallow carry, so this hunk of stuff sticks out of your pocket. Also sitting out of your pocket is the Spyderco logo, which I don't like. The general shape of it just looks kind of industrial. The titanium is great material, but it's not very exotic looking. It's not unicorn bone or carbon fiber or teak. And the Wharncliffe blade is very industrial and utility looking. So this looks like a tool that a gentleman happens to have with them, not gentleman's jewelry. And the paw prints. None of my gentleman's jewelry, my fancy pen, my fancy watch, my suit, my ties, none of those things have paw prints on them. So I don't think it does very well as a gentleman's knife. It's not trying to. I'm going to give it a B there. And so overall, as an NTGK, we'll call it an A. As a KN rating, what will knife nerds think? Well, the good is, the knife nerds will actually be impressed with the real mechanics. Sorry, I did air quotes off camera. The real mechanics in something so small. It's a real knife. It's got a real Spidey hole. It's a real titanium frame lock with a decent lockup, and they'll be impressed with that. Knife nerds will find it, not especially flickable. Now, I'm sure some of my knife nerd friends who have less arthritis than me actually can flick it, but in general, it's too cramped to be a fidget toy, and it's too small to fell trees and use as your primary tool to build a log cabin. And I think my knife nerd friends will think it's cute, but probably not be overwhelmingly impressed with it, and I'll give it a B as a KN rating. And finally, I'm going to add one extra rating, actually. So that was the KN rating for knife nerds. Now let's have an NKN rating, just for this knife. And NKN, of course, being for non-knife nerds. A+, right? Non-knife nerds, people in my office who don't know anything about knives, put this thing on the table, especially if it's closed, and they go, "Oh, is it ever cute?" And they absolutely love it. I've actually had people in the office who think I'm nuts for collecting knives say they would carry this. So NKN rating A+. Okay. And finally, the CMR, the cut myself rating. Easy A, haven't cut myself, not likely to. It's a safe feeling knife. So in summary, this is not a knife I bought. It was a gift from a friend. I really appreciate that. It is a interesting and cute gift. I'd call it somewhere between a novelty knife and a utility knife. But elevating it beyond simple novelty is surprisingly good mechanics and blade. It's a no compromise knife except for being very small. It's a great non-knife and would be a great gift for a non-knife person. It's going to stay in the collection. I don't know how often I'll carry it, but it's cute and fun to have. Thanks for watching. See you again. Bye-bye.